Hello, and welcome to Cold Outreach Success Stories, where we interview regular business people just like you who found good success on cold outreach with email and other channels. We go deep into their process with hot tips around targeting, messaging, and personalization so that you can take away tips that you can start implementing in your outreach starting tomorrow. Today, we have Ryan from Superhuman Prospecting. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Let's get started, Ryan. So, what do you guys do? How do you make money?
Yeah. So we specialize in cold call appointment setting, specifically for business-to-business companies throughout the United States. We are experts. We call ourselves experts as that's what we focus on in that first cold phone conversation from 0 to 1. But we also offer other suites of services such as market list building and email prospecting and other forms of outbound.
Got it. So is it mostly just B2B SaaS companies, or what kind of clients do you typically work with?
Right now, we've identified over 50 primary industries that we work with. And so our top ones I would say right now are SaaS, manufacturing, commercial insurance, digital marketing, and distribution supply chain.
Okay, interesting. So a mix of like more modern industries like B2B SaaS and more traditional ones like manufacturing and all of the others.
Correct.
Got it. Yeah. Interesting. Give me a little bit more about your background, your journey. How did you get into this?
Yeah, so I've always had a little knack for entrepreneurship. And copywriting. I would go door to door as a kid, or I would be on eBay trying to wheel and deal stuff, in my mom's house, like toasters and things like that I would eventually get punished for because they would be missing. But I'm all about that first conversation. I really love beginning business relationships. And so I realized later that was a skill set that was needed in the marketplace, especially still in a digital world. And so when I got out of college, I began to really start to think about what I wanted to do, and started Superhuman Prospecting about 7 or 8 years ago. After testing some things in the marketplace, we saw that the market really needed companies and people to do the work for them. So while we had done some consulting and script writing around cold calling specifically, we found that the majority of companies were looking for those who would be willing to do it for them so that they could focus on presenting and closing new business instead of finding new opportunities.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. So let's go deeper into your process. Let's say you onboard a client. What typically happens? How do you start that engagement?
Yeah, so depending on the packages they chose with us, what we'll do is we'll send them kind of an onboarding email and assign them an account manager. But really, they're kind of like an outsourced sales manager. So what would happen is they would fill out some forms, get us a good sense of who they are and what they provide, and then jump on a call and work through a lot of the integration of teams. And I think that's the one thing that's different in outbound is, in order for it to be successful, you need to look at it like you're outsourcing your department, and the department will never go away. And I think that's a really key part to onboarding that's important, because this isn't necessarily a house that needs to be built, and then once it's built, you just set it and forget it. It's a fire that needs to get bigger and bigger and continue to burn. And so that's the way that we look at prospecting. Whether you stay with us 1 month, 6 months, or more, we are just a part of your sales development journey. So we need to, onboard you as if, we were your internal team. So we look at your target market, your ICP, we really learn your market. And then we also look at your message, your value prop, the pain points of your prospect, your expertise in why it's unique, and then come up with a strategy for executing the best way possible so it could convert the highest, and just documenting and refining along the way.
That makes a ton of sense. That's a great point about, just looking at it as a part of your team that continues to grow even with or without your involvement, because that's what a lot of people who do outsourcing sometimes miss out on. They think it's just like a magic pill that will cure all of your appointment setting issues, and doesn't work that way, no?
Not at all. Yeah, it's not a silver bullet. There's a lot of effort that goes in, especially to outbound. And I think it's because of the nature of outbound. A lot of times, and maybe you've experienced this yourself, where folks have used inbound before, and it's great because they have a certain conversion rate. People are interested, they've done the research, but they want to expand the number of leads, right? And so they go to outbound and say, oh, well, we can just double it or triple it using outbound. And yes, you can, but the amount of effort and change of process that's needed is usually much different than how inbound works, right? Because we are reaching out to them. They may or may not be ready to buy. So you have to kind of start that conversation and that cycle of belief transference that this is something that could help them because they weren't necessarily looking at it prior.
Makes a ton of sense. Like there was the study, right? Like that show that at any given point of time, only like 3% of your buyers are in market to buy right now, right?
Right.
So that leaves 97% completely off the table. So outbound is about you're gonna get the 97% more often than not, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's just the nature of selling, and I think that to put that different cap on is very helpful and can help you position things much differently. It might seem like more effort, but one of the things you are doing is you're protecting yourself from a lot of other competition which can really hurt your time as well. You're spending hours and hours trying to convince someone to buy you instead of somebody else. So while it might be a little bit longer process in some instances to get someone to buy, they also have love blinders on because you're the only one that they're looking at. So it can be a benefit.
Yeah, like there's another study, right? I'm a fan of these studies. Like whoever gets to the buyer first wins like 75% of the time. So a lot of time is just about staying top of mind, right? Even if they're not buying right now, as soon as there's a need, guess who they turn to, right?
Absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah, I'd be curious to see that study because I feel like that's true. I just didn't know that fact.
Yeah, I'll share some. Like I'll put it in the show notes as well, so people who are interested they can go through it. It was one of from one of those sales enablement consulting agencies. I think it was Rain Group or something. So it's a reputed source. Let's take an example of all of this, right? Like, give me an example of a client. Of course, you don't have to name the client. Like that came in, how was the process, and all of that.
Yeah, an example of a successful client or just any client.
Any successful client.
Any successful client. Yeah. So, and we have several that have been with us for a few years now, but one really recent example, and we don't mind giving their name. They're actually, very transparent about that. They're called The Great Game, and they're a SaaS company based out of the West Coast, US. And they have an augmented reality digital escape room adventure for school orientation. So actually, I think Stanford is one of their clients. And so we are calling school districts and colleges around the country to set up meetings to share with them a demo of how it works. Because a lot of times orientation can be boring or not necessarily engaging. And so this kind of creates a way to get to know the campus and the area while creating an adventure through augmented reality on a mobile app. So what's interesting about that is that you've never heard of probably something like that. And that's a part of success in outbound. We look at the 4 pillars. There's 4 pillars of success: product relevance, target market accuracy, messaging strength, and the SDR fit. And all those things have to kind of hold up the weight of the house. You have to have 100% weight distribution in some way. And so if you have a lot of weight built on the product relevance, it can really give you a good start because it can pique the interest and ears of those people that you're speaking with. Then you just need a good message as a conduit, right? The right target and in data, message as a conduit, and the right SDRs to deliver the message, right? So yeah, so we've had a lot of success. They came to us about a year ago now, and they did a really small pilot 1-month trial. It was pretty fantastic results. They increased it. And I think we started with like 500 calls a month. And just recently they re-upped for 4 months, the next 4 months at 10,000 dials a month.
So give me an example. Let's go deeper into the process. What kind of script are you using for them when you're reaching out to school districts?
Yeah, so I love that question, and thanks for asking, because our specialty is cold call script writing specifically. So for instance, we have our own cold calling and script methodology called H2H sales scripts, which stands for human to human. So we have this way of speaking with people at scale so that more people than just 1 or 2 top performers can have success. So we identify kind of the different components of that call and customize it. And so this one in particular, we call a consultative conversation format. So we're getting pretty deep here. But essentially the idea behind this is, since we're calling people that are behind desks and have a little bit more time, we can have some conversation with them, right? Opposed to someone who might be underneath like an owner of a auto mechanic shop underneath a car working on, under the hood, right? Or a truck driver or something on the road. These people, excuse me, are in their seats. So when we talk to them, it's very much conversational. Statement, question, statement, question. So it emulates a conversation exchange that can build trust in your product, process, and person much more quickly than if you were just to pitch blast them, in 10 seconds.
Interesting. So can you actually go into, like, for this specific client, what that looks like? Just like a couple of opening statements or stuff would do. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, we actually, give me just one. I think we just have this, give me 1 second. For instance, we have the first two opening components are what we call the quick prop or quick proposition and the hone in. And so the hone in is a discovery question, but it's a very specific one because we want to be prepared and ready for any of the answers. So the way this works would be like, hi, my name is Ryan with The Great Game. We build custom outdoor digital escape adventures for schools like yours. Rather than generic icebreakers, tours, or photo scavenger hunts, students just download the app and they can play a team-based escape venture at their location. Do you have fun or interactive events that take very little time to plan for your students?
I think that's a really good script because it sets the context, gets into the question.
And it kind of maybe points to a pain. Right? I didn't write that script. It's using our method, which is nice because you can teach this method and it doesn't have to be me. There's a way to open up these conversations. And one of the things that we try to elicit out of this is a bit of a pain, right? So we kind of list like, hey, generic icebreaker, or the other side of it, right? Do you have fun and interactive events? It makes them think, oh man, are my events boring, or something like that. And that can kind of stir out a little bit of conversation, which we can use as fodder for the rest of the conversation to deliver value that makes sense to them.
No, I did notice that's really subtle, right? Like you are calling their events boring without calling them boring. So I think that's genius.
Yeah, that's true. You have to be careful because you don't want to offend anybody. You've never met them. There's not much trust.
Yeah. It's a fine line to walk. That's where the SDR skill also plays a role, I guess. Yeah. The tone.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, so let's go deeper into the process then. So are you just doing cold calling for them, or are you doing other channels for them as well? Like, do you have like a sequence built out?
Yeah, so we do sequences as well. That's something that they can pick and choose. I would say about 95% of our clients have cold calling involved, so we're call first. I would say about 30 to 40% have email as well. So the way that we do this is, we very much systematize what we do. And so, we connect with the client and ensure that, the strategy makes sense for them. But one of the things we don't necessarily do is we don't assign SDRs to do all the work. We have teams. So we have a team that would do the email prospecting because they're experts in messaging and, ensuring that all of those deliveries are accurate and punctual, and have all the right content. And then we run the calls separately, but it all goes to the client in one succinct form so that they're able to kind of pick up all of the leads and the reporting from there.
That makes a ton of sense. Perfect. Cool. So let's go deeper into a little bit about your agency journey then. Like, what do you think was the biggest mistake you did when you were starting this agency, particularly related to outbound?
Yeah, so I would say there's been a lot of lessons learned in, there's so many that are popping up right now. Yeah, I mean, you hear the phrase around, I wasn't just successful, I just failed more quickly. And, because then you just learn so much faster. I think there was two lessons that are coming up right now. The first is, knowing your value to the market and consistently giving yourself credit to the clients for delivering that value, even if they don't necessarily see it right away. And what I mean by that is, there's a book out there by Anthony Iannarino, and he talks about how, clients a lot of times are, and rightfully so in many instances, looking for ultimate value from their vendors because it has to make an ROI or make sense for them. And so he has this thing called the 97-3 rule, which is 97% of the work that you do, the clients will take for granted, and the 3% you do wrong, they'll magnify in your face tenfold. So I think he says, give yourself credit for that 97% anytime you get a chance. So we've really, and I didn't do that in the beginning. We weren't giving ourselves credit. It was all about what we thought the client wanted, but there's so much work in the background to get us that end result. We started to then learn to create transparency around our whole process so that they could see the other aspects that were involved that were valuable to them, and ended up helping our relationships last longer later on.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult one as well, because a lot of times it has to do with your internal self-talk and all of that, right? So you have to, as an organization, right, you have to learn to do positive sort of self-talk and say, hey, I am, doing good things for my clients, right?
Absolutely. The other, I think, is people in human resources management. I think knowing a little bit of the trajectory of a position a little bit more, and knowing how that would develop, and for them, so that they could stay longer and have longer impact success with our clients. I think that would be kind of two things right there.
Yeah, interesting. I think a lot of agency owners, especially first-time agency owners. Coming to my last question. So in terms of what's next for you guys, what are the top couple of things that you're very excited about offering, or, in general in outbound, what do you see as improvements?
So I think cold calling is, first of all, starting to gain a bit of more traction as a respected profession. And I think the market is opening back up to hearing from callers, because they want to hear a human. In an age of AI and digital and us being remote, people crave human touch, and it's something that we have benefited from, but I think will continue to grow as AI and digital double down as well. So there kind of just be this rubber band effect. Right. So I think I see, for us, we have a book coming out around our cold call method this April or May. We're not, ready for the launch date yet, but that's exciting. And it kind of allows other people across the world to see how we've had success at scale cold calling. It's not just one tip or trick. We have a way of communicating at scale for teams to have multitudes of success, through those teams. We also have a case study reporting tool coming out, which is cool, because now we've collected thousands of campaigns, and so we have a way to analyze those campaigns by industry, connection rates, things of that nature, to provide a tool to the sales development world around, what are some standards and benchmarks on cold calling.
Wow, both of these sound like great initiatives, man. Thanks for putting out so much of this data into the world.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
That was it. Thanks so much for coming on.
So that's all the time we have, folks. I really enjoyed the episode. I hope you did too. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, whatever you can to spread the word out about cold outreach success stories, so more people can enjoy and learn from the show. All right, that's all, folks. Bye-bye.